how the investigations into corruption via Hunter Biden, whereby the Biden family brought in more than 20 million for God knows what. I mean, basically purchased influence. That's really interesting is that people are leaning into it that are supporters of Biden. And it's showing up as the dark Brandon meme.
So Biden supporters are the ones spreading this dark Brandon meme.
Well, what I've noticed about irony today, which I think is really interesting, is that irony is both 100% ironic and 100% earnest. This
Well,
is
this
this is
aligns with
actually a
something
much more powerful thing.
we talk about a lot with presidential campaigns. Is one of the biggest mistakes you can make is to try to run without obvious flaws,
Mhm.
because then people will make up flaws for you, and that was one of Trump's biggest strengths,
Mhm.
is people knew what his flaws were. And I think moments like that, when he's first getting on the wealthiest person's list, that he can't even afford his own PR agent, and he is pretending to be his own PR agent to talk himself up, I think shows the reality of the situation. And if we
But
talk about his finances at the time, the left will take this. This is a damning thing. So
when we're like, dude, this guy has hustle. This guy makes things happen.
the way Trump actually got rich, because I think a lot of people don't really understand what he did.
Would you like to know more?
Hello, Simone. It is wonderful to be chatting today. I am really excited for this one.
Well, as you know, because we're huge fans of Susie Weiss, who writes for the Free Press, I try to follow as many of their publications as I can. And one of my favorites that's not by her, because I really just go there for her, is called TGIF, where they do a news roundup. And I was reading in today's TGIF about Dark Brandon, this really interesting thing that's trending. So let me kick this off by describing what's going on here, because I feel like this is just so intriguing. I can't
Wait,
not
Dark
dive into it.
Brandon, like
Dark
Biden's
Brandon.
son.
Yeah, so let's start with some background, right? At one point, there was a baseball game where someone was being interviewed, and the audience were chanting in the background while someone was being interviewed, you Biden, again and again. So you Biden. And then the interviewer, a woman, very charitably thought that the person that she was interviewing was being cheered on. She says, "Oh, they're all saying, 'Let's go, Brandon,'" which is really sweet. And so moving forward, virally, the phrase "Let's go, Brandon" became basically shorthand for you Biden, which has been very fun. So obviously
Well,
this
yeah,
is
and the reason why is it was seen as the way that the press just distorted anything they saw about the world or anything they heard into a positive message for progressives.
exactly, yeah. And what's interesting now is it appears to be that Brandon as a meme is now being appropriated by Biden supporters. So basically what was covered in TGIF by the Free Press this week was how the investigations into corruption via Hunter Biden, whereby the Biden family, while President Biden was vice president, brought in more than 20 million for God knows what. I mean, basically purchased influence. And to your point about the mainstream media, there's very little coverage of this investigation. But what's going on that's really interesting is that people are leaning into it that are supporters of Biden, and it's showing up as the dark Brandon meme.
So Biden supporters are the ones spreading this dark Brandon meme.
Mm-hmm. So what the Free Press basically said was Biden's campaign has embraced the new YOLO middle finger vibe. The top selling products on his campaign website for this week are dark Brandon items. The old saying goes, never explain it, never apologize. And these are literally so the dark Brandon meme is sort of like it's images of Biden, but with evil shining eyes. And literally you can click over to the Biden campaign website and see mugs and t-shirts. I'm on shop.joebiden.com/dark-t-shirt.
I can imagine two reasons for this happening.
Okay.
And they're both really interesting. One could be that what they actually see as one of Biden's biggest weaknesses going into this next campaign cycle is that he's just a pussy and he's not terribly interesting. And this is a way to imbue him
with agency, with power,
mystery, and danger, in the same way that I think drove many people to Trump, in that he actually embodies those things and for a lot of people. But then the other way to look at it is it's just a middle finger to, within their cultural group, things like Let's Go Brandon have become such a sign of people who aren't in their cultural group and people who they detest that they are embracing this completely ironically. Which of those do you think is more what's happening?
Well, what I've noticed about irony today, which I think is really interesting, is that irony is both 100% ironic and 100% earnest. So I think people who are buying Dart Brandon merchandise 100% are like, oh yeah, snub it to the people. I'm appropriating your appropriation. I'm going to take your meme and throw it back at you. But at the same time, they're kind of like, yeah, I have a badass dark leader. He's playing 4D chess. He'll take, payments under the table. It doesn't matter. That's how badass he is. And I think part of us, maybe we want a strongman kind of leader. I mean, there's that old research that found that people who look presidential get elected for president. Maybe this is people wanting their president to be a strongman. And frankly, because right now people are concerned about President Biden being senile, being out of it, not actually being in control.
Yeah.
This is actually a much more powerful thing.
We talk about a lot with presidential campaigns is one of the biggest mistakes you can make is to try to run without obvious flaws, because then people will make up flaws for you. And that was one of Trump's biggest strengths is people knew what his flaws were.
Meanwhile, one of Hillary's weaknesses, she was trying to be Little Miss Perfect.
Yeah, she was trying to be everything to everyone in a big way.
Yeah.
And what that meant is everybody who didn't like her, one, it makes you suspicious of someone when they don't show obvious character flaws.
Totally.
But then two, it allows you to impose character flaws. Oh, they're out there murdering people or something like that, right?
Yeah, well, as we would put it, if you asked, 100 people what's wrong with Trump, you're going to get 10 answers. If you ask 100 people what's wrong with Hillary Clinton, you're going to get 50 to 75 answers. And that's a problem.
You ask 100 people what's wrong with Trump, you'll get 2 or 3 answers.
2 or 3 answers. And that's the great thing is when you choose your vices and you have them so public and consistent, you can make sure that your public vices are not deal breakers for your position. And none of, like misogyny or like huge ego, like all of the Trump problems do not make him incapable of being president. Where, if you have a vice like senility, that could actually, be a deal breaker for presidency. So is this actually a super freaking brilliant move where they're like, we're going to take a vice, we're going to own it. We are corrupt. We have a corrupt family, but we are Dark Brandon. Like we are embracing it. And is that really appealing to people? This isn't just like a thing that like literal White House operatives are starting to adopt, which we can share some sources on this.
Historically, and you compare the way people viewed Bill Clinton versus the way they view Hillary Clinton, this I think highlights one of Bill's greatest strengths is that he leaned into his vice was, and when he did that, his poll numbers went up. When it came out that he had cheated on his wife and lied about it and stuff like that, people were like, oh, now I know what's wrong with you. Yeah. And I can sort of mentally contain. Now, keep in mind, all we're talking about here with all this stuff is perception.
Yeah.
Right. We are not saying that this is actually what's wrong with these political candidates or actually what's not wrong. Most of these political candidates have many bigger things that are wrong with them than these public perceptions. What we're talking here is this game of public perception.
But public perception is what gets you elected or not elected. So in the end, that's what matters, right?
Well, and they may be leaning into it because they feel that they can't avoid it anymore. They can't avoid the public perception of corruption. So you might as well just completely roll in it. So that is the negative that everyone assumes, to the extent of, Biden's, in his speech, and he does like a Trumpism. He's, well, I got away with it, didn't I?
Yeah. Well, at one point he even put on sunglasses and kind of like a hat tip to the Dark Biden campaign. Like the crowd cheered. I really think like this could be the thing that makes his reelection possible, because I do feel like going into things before, even though it was, he's coming in from an incumbent position. He's coming in strong.
His reelection is completely dependent on whether the Republican Party fractures between two candidates or stays united.
I don't think it will, because DeSantis is currently performing pretty poorly, although he did hire a new campaign manager recently. But I think DeSantis is the one who's really like messing up right here. So Trump is, I'm just one more indictment away from the presidency, right? Like, Trump is leaning in. He's like his great old self. Biden is now going dark Biden. Like, we've got two very good caricatures going. And I think caricatures are golden in elections.
No, but the point I'm making is this election actually isn't decided by the strengths of the candidates. It's decided by internal Republican Party politics.
Yeah, I think the Republican Party is pragmatic enough to not try to push DeSantis if DeSantis isn't kind of like
really. I'm not saying that it will be DeSantis. You don't know who else is going to come up.
Yeah, anything can happen at this point.
It's not. Well, I mean, yeah, we'll see. But I think to a large extent, the strength of the Republican position in this next election is actually Biden's messaging and everything like that is largely going to be irrelevant. I think it would be pretty hard for him to beat a united Trump front or a united somebody else front. But I think it'd be fairly trivial for him to beat any sort of divided front.
I do think, though, I personally find the concept of Dark Brandon much more appealing. I feel better about having a Dark Brandon president than I did about Sleepy Joe, if you know what I mean. It's just more fun.
Well, and I think that shows the strengths of Trump's branding in terms of the way he paints negatives for people. Is he created simple, easy to understand negatives, which could be paired with video and stuff like that, and build this into your brain. And so the question is, why is Sleepy Joe such an effective attack? Because it's not a particularly damning attack. Oh, he's sleeping. It implies low energy, and it implies more than, I think, senility. It implies personal weakness of character.
Well, actually, it's really funny, the Sleepy Joe moniker. There's this one episode of Doctor Who where Doctor Who decides he's going to destroy the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And he says something like, "I will destroy you with 3 little words." And he turns to a press agent and he says, "She looks tired." And supposedly this just like completely destroys her, I think. But, like they really present it with a lot of gravitas in that moment.
We're going to be great presidential candidates, all energy all the time. People will be like, yeah, I'm actually surprised we don't get more "you look like you're on drugs." We're not on drugs, by the way.
You got that a lot with the Chris Williamson appearance.
Oh,
a lot of people were like,
got a couple of those.
"You're definitely on amphetamines." Everyone was sure you were on amphetamines. No, guys, this is like literally him at 5 a.m. I'm not kidding you. Like I have to tell him to not get close.
Yeah, he said to be really quick with that interview because I didn't know how long it was going to last. I thought it was going to be 30 minutes, and I was trying to get everything in as quickly as possible. Whereas in our own podcast, I can afford to be much, much more relaxed in my timing.
I wonder, though, if in the future, when we have a greater understanding of the way that our genetics function and we have a greater understanding of the way, like, of the various chemicals in your body, if like literally you are experiencing, like, your default state is what many people experience when they're on amphetamine. I really wonder that because like you are high energy.
I suspect it might be why I drink so much is to get myself into a normal state,
just to bring yourself back down to slow your mind down. I genuinely believe that. So one thing I'm curious about is, okay, so we're seeing like with Dark Brandon, I think really strong campaign action. I deeply admire it. I find it compelling. I'm glad they're leaning into it. I want to see where it goes with this election. When you run for office, what are your clear vices going to be?
I am arrogant as hell. I want it to be arrogant and elitist.
Arrogant and elitist.
Yeah, I want people to know that I think I'm better than them.
Not that you think that you're better than them, Malcolm, that you know that you're better than them.
I know that I'm better than them. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that it's natural to who I am. It's something that I have trouble suppressing is arrogance. Because
I think a good vice, and I think why Dark Brandon works, is that it's true. Is it like, it is incontrovertible. Like when you look at the reports, the investigation into what's going on with Hunter Biden, like it's bad. And there's very little that they can do.
And I think the thing is nerdy weirdness is the other thing I'm going to really.
No, sorry. That's my weakness as an employee candidate is that I just work too hard. That is a humble brag, and that is not.
I do not think so. So I think that you see it that way. The real key to advice, okay, in the political sphere is, can you get your opponent's press to bite it.
Oh, to make fun of you. Well, and Ben Shapiro did call you like a big fat nerd, didn't he?
Yeah. This is on our own side, right? But no, there was this Yahoo News piece about us that just basically went through our Reddit history. And
Oh,
going,
yeah,
did
I
you know
forgot.
they follow like Tumblr in action and Fat Logic and all of these meanish right-leaning stuff. So when I say nerdy weirdness, I don't mean like general nerdy weirdness. I mean like
You mean like he's an
4chan
type
nerdy
freak?
weirdness.
Yeah.
And also keep in mind, you know, I have looked at the way people attack us on the Reddit threads that have done really well. You know, we typically we have a few Reddit threads that are over like 50,000 upvotes on us.
Oh, God. I upvotes on hate about us. Let's be clear.
Oh yeah, hate about us. Yeah, nobody likes us.
Hmm.
Hate about us. And, you know, very common stuff is, do you know he had a body pillow made of an anime version of his wife? I mean, clearly I did this for fun, but like they really wanted to lean into how disgusting and terrible this was that I had done this. I think that, or that when I proposed to you, one of the images we used was like an MLP fandom, My Little Pony fandom image. I think that you may underestimate how much. And this is one thing that Trump did that was really, really smart.
Yeah.
He would bait reporters with lines that, given their ideological perspective, they thought were things that they could use against him, but the majority of the population actually agreed with. A great example here is when he's like, oh, we don't want to be like one of those, you know, I think it was like shitty countries in Africa or something like that, he said.
No, I think it was something about like, accepting immigrants from shitty countries in Africa or something. But it was very offensive to people that he said.
Like, how dare he call countries in Africa shitty? And they just went off on this, where the majority of America was like, oh, that's pretty based. Even Dems were like, yeah, they're pretty shitty.
You're actually reminding me, though, of a really an amazing, I would say, vice leveraging tactic or vice Aikido tactic that Trump uses that has been underutilized in the world of the political sphere. So right now, what most politicians do when they're presented with a question that they don't want to answer or an accusation that they don't want to address, they immediately change the subject. Like they asked as though they were asked an entirely different question. Trump does not. If someone's, oh, you know, what about this woman who accused you of sexual assault? And he'll be like, well, first, she's not my type. I have no idea. But like the fact that he says stuff like that, and one, it shows he's taking one accused vice. Oh, you sexually assaulted a woman. And then he like switches it to another vice of, oh, yes, I am misogynistic. And oh, yes, I am very like self-important. Yeah, but this other thing isn't true.
That's actually really powerful. Yes. If somebody accuses you of a vice you don't want to have publicly, you transform it into another vice through the way you answer.
Yes, but meet like, vice accusations that are not on brand for you with your own vice. I think that's like the trick. And I don't know how Trump does it so naturally, but he does. He's so good at it. Okay, so you're going to be a nerd and you are going to be...
What about you?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't have any vices.
No, I think that's the problem is my vice is I am oppressively boring. So
I don't think our audience would think that. I think, okay, so within conservative spheres, your big vice, and people say this, is that you look like a progressive.
Yeah, but we might be growing out our hair because Brian Kaplan thought it would be a good idea.
Yeah, so we'll see. Yeah, we were told she should grow out her hair, and we're like,
no, he said just per the audience we're going, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. I can't pull it off as well, but he's right. So maybe I won't look like a so what? But that's not a vice. That's not a good vice. That she looks like a progressive. I don't know.
What should be your vice? I mean, it's your choice. There's lots of things wrong with you.
Yeah, but it has to be like, and there's tons of things wrong with
I think you could lean into the whole autistic thing.
Yeah. Oh, just okay to be like too autistic.
Not liking to talk to people, like turning away from people trying to give you their baby.
And you know, maybe that's DeSantis's problem. Your mom, before she passed away, was convinced that DeSantis was autistic. Yeah. I can tell. And she called our son well before he was diagnosed. So you know, she knows what she's doing. God rest her soul, of course. We miss her a lot. She will never be forgotten. But yeah, maybe what he should be doing in terms of pivoting in this campaign, and one reason why he's failing is one, he doesn't have any clear vices. He's trying to be like Mr. Perfect with his wife, being all beautiful and nonsense and like going on a campaign for him. But I think he's missing that strong character with the dark side and the light side. And I don't really, what's wrong with him? What do you think is wrong with him? I don't know. I couldn't say. And that's the problem. You know, that's why he's not doing so well. That's why I think he fired his campaign manager, because he's not getting traction. But I think the bigger problem is he doesn't have vices.
My read, and I'm not really following this too much. So if this video does well, if people want like campaign talk, I'll start following campaign politics again and do more on it, because it's something that I can get addicted to. I've gotten really addicted to political news in previous cycles. Just like a constant fire hose when I get into it. So I'm happy, if this does well, I'm happy to do more on this. But my read as somebody who's not really following it is he comes across as trying really hard to make this work, and it's just not working.
Yeah. Well, I think the bigger problem is that his original campaign strategy was, I'm gonna be the culture wars president. Everything's culture wars. He kept pivoting answers back to, and I'm going to make this about, gender and all this other stuff, when that's, I think, surprisingly not really what people care about that much.
No, people care about their kids being like brainwashed and stuff. And this is, I think, a mistake that the Republican upper brass is just really slow on right now. Republicans do not hate gay people. Okay. They don't even dislike gay people. They dislike the way that trans people are getting special privileges within some circumstances. They dislike the way that this stuff is taking over our school system, but they have no actual animosity to the gay community other than where they vote different from them. I mean, Milo Yiannopoulos, back when he was gay, I don't know what's going on with him now. He was the gayest motherfucker I've ever seen. He presented with all of the stereotypes and stuff like that. And he was generally really well liked in the conservative sphere. And this comes to something that we might do a full video on later, is progressives have created a narrative. And unfortunately, I think the upper brass of the Republican Party, and this has been one of the mistakes that DeSantis has fallen into, have created a narrative where conservatives are like, actually racist or actually homophobic. They're like, no, like having a lot of gay friends, that doesn't make you not homophobic, or and it's no, it actually does. What you mean when you say that is the only way to not be homophobic is to agree with you. That is not, as I said in a tweet I wrote recently, I signed up to be an ally, not a minion. Okay. And you don't get to call me homophobic when I'm not a minion. I don't have any animosity towards gay people. I don't want them to suffer. But I also don't think that they, get the right to culturally impose this on other groups or other groups' kids. And so I understand the Republicans' anger there.
Well, any more than like anti-gay groups can impose. Yeah.
He specifically actually seems to be targeting gay people. Like he's actually fuck gay people. Like what? I don't know. That's been my read of his campaigns.
Yeah. I just think it's insufficiently culturally compelling. Whereas really weird, dumb stuff like Dark Brandon is, and I think people are really discounting that, Trump won because people wanted someone to break the system. It was that simple. We are not, people, get a lot into policy and, all these debates. The debates are just to see how
he also did a really good job as president. We should do another video on just Trump someday, because I have a lot of problems with his personal character. But he, I think objectively, if you just go through it, was a genuinely really good president.
Oh yeah, he hashtag nailed it. It's very...
Especially foreign policy wise, which is my core area of focus. He was just phenomenal foreign policy president. Really, really good.
Yeah. Whereas right now, the Biden administration is apparently releasing about $3 billion in frozen assets in North Korea to Iran in exchange for some prisoners, telling Iran that they get about $1.5 billion per prisoner. So now they're really incentivized to kidnap people. So friends, don't go to Iran right now. It's just not a good idea, especially if you matter to the United States government. So anyway, yeah, I feel like the Biden foreign policy team, which is really interesting because I think a lot of people originally voted for Hillary Clinton, for example, and then next for Biden, because they were like, well, this is the responsible choice. We're not voting for a person. We're voting for a larger network of advisors. And because, yes, it's actually pretty clear Trump's cabinet and team was pretty chaotic. There was really high turnover. There was a concern that you wouldn't really get the policy support, the foreign network that you would need to succeed in the executive office. And yet, with Biden in office, we're really not seeing policies that give me a lot of comfort, which is interesting.
And I think that a lot of Trump's vices played really well into his ability to be a president. So
Hmm.
one of the things that I think a lot of people slept on is why the economy did so well when Trump was president, until COVID, but not much you can do about that. It was that he was so economically unpredictable. And what people don't realize, I think, often about the markets is that they are hopelessly optimistic. They're always looking for some upside they haven't expected yet. So when you look at things like his restrictions on China, what that meant is there was always the potential in the future for some big economic uplift. And as
Hmm.
long as the investor class believes there is a near future potential that they can't predict of economic uplift, they are going to continue to invest in the market.
So it's
Um,
Trump's very unpredictability that both from an economic and a foreign policy perspective made people
it,
behave well.
no, it was that he was doing things that artificially held down the market that he
Mm.
could easily turn off that led to the market almost always rising. When I'm putting money on the market, what I'm doing is I'm saying how much higher could the market go from where it is now? A
Hmm.
perfect political environment for the market means you have reached the market peak and it's time to start selling. As long as you create the assumption that the market environment is suboptimal, which Trump was constantly doing through often pretty dumb economic policy. Well, it wasn't dumb in its result, right? Because it
Yeah.
created
We'll see chaotic economic policy.
foreign policy where he was punishing foreign actors that he should have been punishing, and that we now know he should have been punishing because Biden carried on all these policies. No one talks about it.
Mm.
The public perception of what's going on in politics, I think, is so different than what's actually going on.
Mm. Yeah, well, and I think there's also the question of what does the executive office really do, and you know, I think the character of a president is underrated in influencing a
Well,
nation's
yeah,
position on the world stage. Like just
economy.
narratively, what people think of the president and how they model the president may make just maybe not just as much, maybe just as much of an impact as all of their different policy choices throughout
Well,
their.
I think it makes a bigger impact. I mean, I think that
Mm,
the reason you mean to talk foreign policy. I think the reason Putin did not invade Ukraine while Trump was president, despite him being, inclined towards Russia, is I think Putin genuinely believed that Trump might decide to do something like nuke Moscow. He genuinely portrayed this air of mental instability and aggressiveness,
yeah.
and not understanding the outcomes of his actions. And I think that a lot of dumb people in the public like just absolutely believe like that he actually was that way, and I don't think he was that way at all. I don't think he was 4D chess either. I think
Yeah.
he was like a dad who knew what was going on, and sometimes he fell into the right circumstances, but he wasn't
Uh,
an absolute genius. But
well,
he,
here's I think Trump is a genius at some things. Okay,
yeah,
he's an absolute genius at hype, at PR. Like him being his own press agent when he couldn't even afford to have
that
his
made
own.
me respect him so much.
Yeah, so
And this is
for
one of those
color, for
things. I
background.
think, yeah, when I really start to respect somebody, and press, I believe, is press that would make somebody look bad. And there was that case where people released these recordings. You want to talk about it?
Basically, I think when Trump was originally running, someone released a recording of him pretending to be his own press agent, trying to promote Trump. I think for Forbes' top wealthy people list or
Yeah, top
something.
10 wealthiest people
And
in
at the
the
time, of course, he was so obscure that people didn't know his voice or his mannerisms. So when he called this person on the phone talking about Trump, pretending to be his agent, he totally sounded like himself. And Trump, he's such a great guy. He's just the best. I can't do Trump, but like he did Trump as Trump's agent.
The
So it's very
level of
obvious it was him. But when we we're like, dude, this guy has hustle. This guy makes things happen. He's a hype machine. He knows what to do. He knows where to apply pressure. And he's not above doing things like this. Whereas most people would never deign to, first off, even self-promote. Like many people can't deign to hire a press agent. Not only could he deign to do that, he could deign to do it himself.
Well,
And like
yeah.
that
Well, the sad thing is Trump has this personal self-image that is he is a wealthy person from a wealthy family, and he is high class, and he has this so much that he doesn't portray just how self-made he actually is.
Hmm.
And I think moments like that, when he's first getting on the wealthiest person's list, that he can't even afford his own PR agent, and he is pretending to be his own PR agent to talk himself up. I think shows the reality of the situation. And if we talk about his finances at the time, the left will take this. This is a damning thing. So the way Trump actually got rich, because I think a lot of people don't really understand what he did. So if you're born to a pretty wealthy family, the sane, unambitious thing to do is to take that money, to invest it, and to live a life where you never have to really worry about medical expenses or running out of money or anything like that. That could have been Trump's life. He was born to a wealthy enough family that realistically he never had to worry about money. You could also do something stupid. Take that money and blow it on drugs, right? That's what many people do as vices in wealthy families. Trump did something actually insane that actually makes me respect him a little less because it was just such an insane move. He went around and convinced people who would give him debt that he had more assets than he had. So he didn't just take debt out against the assets that he owned so that he would be broke given his own assets. He pretended that he owned things his dad owned and took out debt against that. Then he took all of this debt he accumulated and bet it on New York real estate in a way where if the real estate market had gone down, somebody who literally could have lived their entire life without worrying about money would end up, well, he would have gone bankrupt and would have had to give up his assets and stuff like that. And he might have been okay. Like his dad could have said, these aren't his assets, but then could the bank have put something on him so they could have taken the assets later? But basically live life with nothing for the rest of your life. So he took a gamble there and it worked. Now that I'm thinking through this, is actually a pretty smart gamble. So I'll explain why it was a smart gamble, okay? So what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is the New York real estate market goes down, as it did when he did the Atlanta deal, because he did this a few times, and one of the times it actually did go bust on him, just not the first time, which provided him with enough money that he didn't have to worry about it, but borrowed money that he didn't have, like against money he didn't have, and made these big sort of economic gambles on real estate. If it had gone tits up, yes, he would have gone broke. But because he hadn't gotten the money from his dad yet, he would have just gone bankrupt. And then later, when his dad died, he would have gotten a big inheritance.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I take it back. Actually, a pretty brilliant plan with a moderate cost to him, but actually not a very big cost.
The biggest cost associated with this gambit would actually have been the wire fraud charges, which Simone and I had a long discussion offline about how big a cost that actually would be, given that it might not have been in the bank's financial interest to pursue those charges. We've actually had this as a problem with our businesses where, like, we're mad at somebody and we totally want to sue them, but there's just literally no economic upside to suing them as a business, so we just decide not to because the lawsuits are expensive. And she was pointing out that even if the charges did go through, people with that in their background, even some people we know, still find ways to do business. That's specifically where the wire fraud charges would hurt you so much that would make you very, very difficult to take out loans and stuff in the future.
But I think that this is like a microcosm for one of the things that made Trump a really good foreign policy figure for the particular time in which he was in office. He's super based macho man, just balls out. What you gonna do? I'm gonna bomb you. What do you think of? And people are like, legit, I think he's gonna bomb you. You probably should.
No, it wasn't that they thought he was gonna bomb them. It was that they thought there was a non-zero chance he would bomb them.
Yeah, well, he was enough of an agent of chaos, and he was enough of an ego-driven man. Where like,
what was that? Where he just like randomly they crossed a line for him, and so he was like, okay, well then I'll cross a line. I'll nuke one of your diplomats. Not nuke. What was it? He sent like a guided missile that blew up the guy's car.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what happened, but what was really interesting about it, and it was such a diplomatic like overreach. It showed such diplomatic overreach that no one would normally do, but it was also so incredibly targeted. It was, I say you don't do something, I'm going to do something that is an equal offense to what you just did, but that targets top people within your military community This was Iran, I think, actually. What's this, Iran?
I
Might
can't
have been Iran.
remember.
Anyway, I'm forgetting. But yeah, so that you personally and your families personally feel there may be some price to pay that is equivalent to your top brass, but feel like random people you're killing.
Yeah.
A lot of people could say that can spiral out of control. I think what we've seen with what's going on with the Ukraine war and Russia is actually a lot harder for things to spiral out of control than the public thinks.
Yeah.
In fact, it's never really happened except for the Cuban Missile Crisis, which, okay, there it almost did actually spiral out of
But
control.
I also think that there's a lot of value to like boiling complex issues down to really simplistic actions and narratives. And Trump was very capable of doing that. And I think he also drew other figures into simplistic détentes, essentially, that like really worked well in foreign policy.
Well, we need to do a whole video just on Trump's Middle Eastern policy, which was really good.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how this video does. This is doing something a little bit,
and I didn't prep beforehand, so obviously I'm mentioning a bunch of stuff where I don't remember all the specifics, so I probably got some stuff wrong.
But there is something pretty universal and clever here, which is like the power of vices and the power of simple characters, and I think it's so underrated. Everyone wants to be perfect. We've even had people who've read our books where we talk about this, where like you have to have super simple vices and super simple virtues. And people have been like, okay, well, here are the virtues that I've chosen for myself, and here are the vices. All the vices are just virtues, like they're just humble brags.
Well,
and then all of
you've done the same thing, Simone. I asked you what your vices are, and you wouldn't give
my
me.
Vices are that I'm bored. Okay, dear YouTube, please select my vices for me because I just can't figure it. Maybe it's that I hate people and that I'm secretly really evil on the inside, because that's probably true. Maybe it's that I don't know. It's bad. Malcolm, you're good. This is why you're going to run. And I'm not a good person to run.
You're running in the first election. The people who want to fund us, say they want a woman.
Okay, YouTube, please figure out my vices fast because apparently I need them. But Malcolm, I love you, and I especially love your vices. What is it that Churchill said? He said something like, he has none of the vices I love and all the virtues I hate. Something like that. That man understood vices. This is, it's a universal thing that has withstood the test of time. So, well, I love this conversation. I think maybe we might have some more of these, but yeah, we'll see.
And I'm very excited for the next election cycle. I'm sure we'll be doing more politics, even if it doesn't do well.
Yeah. It's too fun. Can't not do it.
All right, have a good one.
Love you, Malcolm. Yeah, can you put them in the laundry machine? I think they're Octavian's pants. Can you put them in the laundry machine?
Yeah, I will put them in the laundry machine.
Thank you.
Socks!
A sock. Can you put it in the laundry machine?
Yeah.
Good job, Torsten. Good job, Octavian.
It's so big.
Can you put those other socks in the laundry machine, Torsten?
Yeah. So big. So big. It's so big. It's so
Look,
big.
there's some tie-dye shirts. Can you put them in the laundry machine?
Can I put it on? No, I don't want it.
You can both do it. There.
It's all the laundry.
It's a lot of laundry. Are you ready to turn it on?
Yeah, I'm ready to turn it on.
Okay, good.
Out.
So, Octavian, can you make the temperature cold? Good. Torsten, can you make this wash setting normal? Octavian, will you show him? No. Yes. Good. And then, Torsten, will you turn pre-soak on over here? Torsten, can you set this to on?
Yeah.
Twist it the other way. Good. Now, both of you can press this start button.
No, look at it.
You can do it too, Torsten. Push. What sound is that? I think it's sensing. High five. Yeah.